This 911 Strong podcast is brought to you by our partners at the Police Credit Union of California.
As a financial institution founded by law enforcement for law enforcement and their families over 65 years ago, they have the experience and understanding to help you with all your financial needs,
including exclusive products designed specifically for law enforcement professionals. To become a member today, visit thepolicecu.org. That's the police, the letter C, and the letter U.org.
Or call 800-222-1391 and tell them you heard about them from the 911 Strong podcast.
Station to all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911 Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
Hey friends, welcome to the 911 Strong podcast. I am Aram Choe, and with me as always is my devoted co-host, Kristen Jauregui.
Hey guys.
Hey Kristen and our listeners, we have a special guest with us today, the president and CEO of the Police Credit Union of California, Eddie Young. Hey Eddie, thanks for joining us.
Hey, hi there, Kristen, and hi there, Aram. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a little while. I think the last time you came on, you actually resonated with a lot of our listeners, especially with what's going on today. I mean, I can speak for a lot of police families when I say the cost of groceries, the fuel costs, just life in general has been really burdensome. Mm-hmm. And I can certainly tell if I'm feeling it, that a lot of other police families are feeling it as well. I mean, what have you heard with what's going on?
Well, certainly within the law enforcement community, I mean, everyone is also ultimately a consumer. And you're right, that the high cost of gasoline today, unprecedented levels that we've seen in the San Francisco Bay Area in general, the high cost of housing is still persistent. So, for us, it is certainly an everyday effort on our part to try to help our law enforcement community members in maybe obtaining the best possible financial solution as possible.
Right. Yeah, I guess it's different for a lot of families. I mean, I guess a lot of people would say, adjust your spending, live within your means. But, to be quite honest, a lot of families are not in a position to put money away every month. They're living from paycheck to paycheck. I mean, you've had experience raising a family, and you're an accountant, and you're in the financial world. What are some of the solutions out there that families can do right now? Maybe eliminate debt. I don't know. Consolidate debt.
Well, it is a challenge, no question. With debt today, I know inflation being such at high levels, it is tough to kind of meet that day-to-day financial obligation. But as far as debt and certainly not pulling a plug on our credit union. But I think for most consumers, right, they need to kind of re-examine what kind of debt that they have. So, for example, credit cards, right? Because that's probably one of the most common debt that's out there. Most people have credit cards with whether it's other banks or other card issuers that are in the high double-digit interest rate levels. I think that's probably the first place that they need to start looking at. Where can they get a better deal? Because if you're going to be paying roughly, say, 15%, between 15 to 25%, as far as interest on that revolving balance, that is a substantial amount of money that you're paying somebody else. So it certainly is. I would encourage everyone that is in that kind of position to start looking at, hey, where can I obtain a credit card that's lower in interest rate? The other factor that they could save some money is really think about a consolidation loan that also carries a lower rate. So if you've got multiple credit cards with high double-digit interest rates, it would certainly be to their advantage to start consolidating those, pay off those high credit cards, and take on a lower interest rate loan at the same time, trying to work down that outstanding balance. So that's pretty much I would say, the right out of the gate, that is something that people need to think about.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something that is probably, even if you're not paycheck to paycheck and struggling, it's not smart to continually give your money away to these credit card companies. And right off the bat, I'm thinking, our audience, because I know I'm going to have this question too, is what's the difference between seeking these services through a traditional financial institution like a bank, as opposed to a credit union? And like your credit union, I know you have debt consolidation programs. I guess the second part of that question is, instead of paying 11.5%, 12%, 13%, 19% interest on a credit card, is there a program in place where I can take all my credit card debt that I have and package it into a lower interest rate payment plan?
Absolutely. And so let me kind of start out by answering the first part of your question. Credit unions, compared to banks and other financial institutions, we operate based on a very different philosophy. Our mission is really to help those that share a common, in our world, common bond. So in our case, it's about helping other law enforcement professionals, as well as their family members. And so we look at that as a very homogeneous group. And based on that is we will develop and price products that really would be of benefit to the law enforcement community. And of course, including civilian staff that work within these departments as well. But to answer your question, no question that we do have products, specifically in this case, a debt consolidation, where you can combine all your debts somewhere else that carries a much higher interest rate, and be able to reduce that interest rate so that monthly payment becomes far more advantageous to you as the borrower. Because our consolidation loans still in the single digits, even though out there right now interest rates are going up, but we have not made any effort to raise our consolidation loan rate at all at this point in time. So I think it would be wise suggestion for some of your listeners to start thinking about, hey, where can I get a better deal? And ultimately, it is about getting a better deal, because all of them are consumers, and as consumers, you want to be able to maximize that utilization of that money that's in your wallet. And you're right. Why should you be paying high interest rates to somebody else where you can obtain a better return?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Rather just put it all together for a lesser rate, for sure.
Absolutely. And then, for us, our goal is to speak to our members, those that are current members as well as potential members, about, hey, based on a consultative, holistic approach, is how can we save you money? That's really our goal. And if you're very happy with us, we know that you will continuously come back to us. That's really our business model. Is what can we do for you as far as helping you save that money or get the best deal that we can possibly put on the table.
Yeah, I know that could help a lot of people, because we're just trying to save where we can, like you said, with all of the inflation going on. Any little bit helps, and it makes a big difference over the course of a year or a few years.
Right.
So that would be excellent.
Yeah, and maybe unfortunately, sometimes maybe we as an organization, we don't toot our horns as well as we possibly could. And so oftentimes we do encounter some of our members that do carry high amount of, not high debt, but carry debt that is priced based on very high interest rates. And they didn't realize that, oh, we didn't know that we can do that. Well, it's something that we encourage everyone to come speak to us. Now, at the end of the day, there may not be a solution, but on the other hand, without talking to, I guess, financial professionals like ourselves, like within our organization, our goal on a day-to-day basis is what can we do to try to steer you to a better financial place, so that at the end of the day, at night, you and your family can have a greater sense of maybe confidence, greater sense of peace of mind that, hey, my money is working as hard as it possibly can for me and my family, so that to ensure that my standard of living is maintained or bettered than what it is today. And so it is really about kind of that exploratory conversation that, hey, I have this debt, I have that debt. Is there anything that I can do to put me and my family in a better financial position? And oftentimes we are able to come up with a solution. Now, it is one in which it just needs to have that initial conversation. And then our team of consultants could start working on, hey, we can do this, we can do that. And oftentimes you'll be amazed as to, how far we can go. But our goal is, hey, look, as long as we could even save you $1, that's $1 more that you have in your pocket. And that would put you in a better position.
Right. Yeah. And speaking of financial hardships, I know summer's coming and a lot of people start kind of making some like life changes, like moving and things like that. And you had talked about the Hero Program loan the last time we had you on, but I don't think it had launched yet. So is there any updates on that or what that would provide?
Yes, actually it was launched about, I would say 3 to 4 weeks ago. And it has gained a tremendous amount of interest because we have had numerous, actually law enforcement personnel calling us about, hey, what is this and how does it work? So we have had a lot of conversations with some of our members and even potential members. When they've heard about it, they have seen, I think, some ads that we have placed out there. So it is gaining traction.
Good.
So I mean, we got a lot of young officers that listen that don't own right now; they rent. And my advice to them is, you got to find out what situation works good for you. So for some people, it makes more sense to rent, and others it makes sense to buy. So for those young officers and families that want to buy, what would be the advantage of going through the Hero Program as opposed to going through, another mortgage company?
Sure. Well, in this case, we are certainly very unique. We are probably maybe the only one that has created this program specifically for law enforcement act. And so let me kind of maybe backtrack for a second. It's for active law enforcement personnel. Think about it. A traditional mortgage loan requires you to put in typically 20% down payment. The more lenient programs, maybe requiring 5%, but oftentimes they would require also what is referred to as PMI or private mortgage insurance, right? Because the lender is taking some substantial amount of risk by having a lower degree of down payment. Bottom line is, hey, the lender really want you to put as much skin in the game as possible so that you don't walk away from that loan. For us, we're taking, quite honestly, because of several factors. Number one, we are an organization that was founded for law enforcement personnel. Two, because of that, we're willing to take that degree of risk by basically creating a program that does not ask for down payment. So zero. So with that said, we take the burden of that risk. And so for a young officer that is in pursuit of the American dream, right? I mean, I would hope and think that every young American out there is thinking about ultimately being the owner of their own castle. And so this program would allow for that to happen. Now, as a caveat, it works in most areas, but certain areas may not be quite workable. For example, like the San Francisco Bay Area, because of the cost of housing being so expensive, it may be a challenge. Not to say that it wouldn't work, it may be a bit of a challenge. So when you look at certain geographical areas where cost of housing is still within reach, our program generally would work for most officers that are interested in doing that. And so let me kind of get a little bit deeper in that. The more traditional, as I said before, the more traditional lender would require 20% down payment. We, on the other hand, would not. If a traditional lender is willing to go as low as maybe 10% down payment or 5% down payment, there's a caveat to that. And the caveat to that is your monthly payment is going to be tagged on with PMI, basically private mortgage insurance. And so you're going to be paying that for quite a while until it gets to a certain percentage where the lender becomes comfortable or within their policy limits, right, that they can wean you off of PMI. We, on the other hand, we're coming right out of the gate with zero, and with no PMI. That's a big difference, because that monthly PMI payment can be quite a few dollars as well.
Yeah, I think as a homeowner and a landlord, how do I say this gently? But when my renter is essentially paying off my mortgage, right?
Correct.
So if you're like me, I would rather not pay somebody else's mortgage. I would rather pay my own mortgage and start building my own equity, because when I'm done with this loan, I've got all this equity built up into my house, my property. And, if I die later on, I can bequeath that to my family. Or, if I'm interested in buying a retirement home later, I've got all this. So it's equity in this house. So it's like a savings plan, really.
It is.
And it's smarter to do that. But for a lot of the people out there that think, I can't buy a house, I don't have the down payment. I mean, you said it yourself. It's 100% financing. It requires zero down payment. And the beauty of it is you're not paying the additional private mortgage insurance that doesn't contribute towards your equity anyway.
Right.
It just kind of gets thrown away. So that's incredible. I think for our listeners out there, I was personally jealous of our military personnel, because they had a similar program where military personnel can get 100% loan. That didn't exist for police officers until your credit union brought that on. So that's amazing.
No. And I think, part of it is based on personal experience. I have 3 sons, and 2 of them are, adults, and their first home buying experience, even though I am in this business, the banking business, but I was in shock, absolute shock, as to how much the cost of housing has escalated within the San Francisco Bay Area. So much so that I think our program would really help to get that police officer into the very first home,
right?
Without having to worry about, well, where am I going to come up with that 20% down payment? Because that's the biggest hurdle of home buying.
And I can tell you, I know Kristen and I have talked about this. We both have had different experiences with our first homes, but I know when I was a renter, it didn't feel like it was my home. I made it as homely and personal as possible, but it never felt like it was my home. And I didn't even know this until I got my first home. And my first home, it was pride of ownership. It was really like, I can do what I want to this house. I can personalize it. I don't have to worry about the landlord telling me what I can and can't do to the place. I made it my own. And I got to tell you, if you're in a position to buy, there's no greater satisfaction in knowing that your hard-earned money is going towards something that you're building for your family.
Right. And the other thing about being, home ownership is, right now, my opinion is there's no better place to place your money than in real estate, your very own home.
Yes.
As you can see, the low deposit rates that are out there right now. And then, one may think about the stock market. Well, think about what has happened over the last few days. Now, today may be a little bit of an exception. The stock market has kind of rebounded, but over the course of the last 4 days, it's been just nerve-wracking. And people think of looking at their 401k plan. Well, you probably won't be able to retire, or at least you might have to extend out your working days. But real estate continues to escalate, and that's because of just simply it's a supply and demand.
Yeah, even through all the corrections over, I look at that just at the last 20 years of my home ownership experience. There's been ups and downs, but at the end of the day, the home value is certainly a lot higher than it was 15, 20 years ago. So there is a consistency with real estate. You're absolutely right. And I try to impart this advice to a lot of young officers, because I see a lot of these guys that get excited about, oh, my Amazon stock went up or my Bitcoin went up. And I said, that's great if you are in that world, but in my opinion with stocks is it just makes rich people richer. The common folks like us, it's really taking a gamble. But what really isn't a gamble is in real estate, especially if it's in your primary residence. And just for our listeners, just so they know, I'm not a financial guru. I'm not Eddie Young. But what I am is someone that's gone through the ups and downs, literally. I had the ups of buying my first home, and then I had the down of losing my first home. I had it short sold back about 15 years ago. But from that, I learned a lot of valuable experience. And what I can tell you is it didn't deter me from wanting to buy a home again. It motivated me to want to buy a home the right way with the right loan. I had a predatory mortgage where the interest rate was adjustable, and the lending agent that signed me up for that loan was like, oh, this is great. You're going to get, said everything that it took. It sold me on a really bad loan. But for our police officer families right now, there's really no excuse to get into a bad loan because this loan exists. There really shouldn't be any other mortgage program you should jump into.
No.
This is the one. I can tell you right now, this is the one.
No. And I think speaking about your experience, certainly, the person that sold you that loan some years ago certainly were financially motivated because they get a commission out of whatever amount of loans. On our side, our loan officers, they're not commissioned. They're based on just flat salary, right? So it takes away that whether intended or unintended desire to sell you something that whether you need it or not. Hey, for us, it's far more on a consultative basis. Look, maybe perhaps not every single potential police officer may qualify for a loan, but at least we are there to able to have that conversation with them to assess their personal financial situation, to say, hey, you know what, it works, or that, you know what, right now maybe this is not the right time, but keep doing what you're doing, whether is building up your credit score, whether to build up, cash reserves, because, home ownership does come with, some expenses, right? Sometimes unexpected things happen with the house, the repair costs, all those things. But for the most part, our job is really, our mission really is to help you, guide you, speak to you about your situation, as well as, well, how does it fit? If you have to take on this new financial obligation, how does that impact you personally going forward? Do you have to, hopefully that you don't have to, start eating, dog food or cat food, but in that sense, it is about how can we put you in a better financial position. Right. And really, that's our motive. That's really our mission.
I'm glad you guys are there to have those conversations with, because I know if I ever wanted to reach out to a financial expert for advice, they would charge me a consultation fee. And you've got consultants on staff who I don't have to pay for. I'm simply a member. I think it cost me like, what did it cost us, Kristen? Like $50 each just to open a membership?
25.
25. Okay. Yeah.
25. And by the way, that is still your money.
Yeah.
Right. So in essence, it's, because of us being a cooperative. So that initial deposit of $25 is what gets you that membership with our credit union.
Yeah, and it opens up so many more. It opens up the opportunity to have conversations, consultations, and get advice, but have access to these amazing programs and stay away from the predatory loan agents out there.
Oh yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to add to that, especially for our in this case, go back to the hero loan and borrowers being police officers, that end of watch program that we have, that is, by the way, free to every active law enforcement personnel. It covers that loan as well. So in other words, if God forbid something happened during the line of duty, if that loan in existence were still outstanding, the end of watch program would cover for that as well. I mean, so in essence, it's similar to the that tunnel to tower program,
Right.
that we would cover that mortgage.
Right. That's an amazing.
And so so that's but the coverage is up to 850,000. So again, it kind of lessens that burden.
Yeah, and especially with the price of mortgages in California, I mean, 850 sounds like a lot, and it is a lot of money, and that'll buy a lot of house in a lot of states. But in California, it'll get you, especially in the Bay Area, it'll get you
just the garage.
Yeah, a good starter home. When I mentioned predatory, it made me start thinking about some of the other predators that are out there. And one of the big things right now, as we're doing this via Zoom on the internet, is people are susceptible to getting their identity stolen, getting their private information taken, getting bank accounts created, loans created based on the information that's out there on the internet. I heard somewhere that you partnered with a privacy firm that specializes in protecting police officers, because we fall into the category of executive officers in California. And I know in a number of states across the country as well, that allow officers to have their information become more secure. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
Correct. Sure. We have actually partnered with a company called Officer Privacy. And so this is an entity that was actually started and operated by retired or ex law enforcement personnel. So right out of the gate, there is a deep understanding of the need to protect law enforcement personnel's private information. And so this company, that we have partnered with, and I would say that most people don't know of their existence unless some catastrophic event might have happened with their personal data. But we have partnered with them where they can provide assistance or a subscription service that would help remove or shield. So for example, in your case, Aram, they could protect your privacy by either taking off or masking your information in a number of public areas,
right? So
that the bad guys will not be able to see who you are, where you live, who your spouse might be, things of that nature.
Right. I think just like officers should be taking advantage of the hero loan because it's available to them. It's unique to officers. Officers should also take advantage of this because it's unique to officers as well. I think it's unique to executive. In California, it's defined as executive officers, which police officers are included in. And I got to tell you right now, especially if you're on social media like I am, like Kristen is, it would be foolish of us not to protect her, because there's a lot of people, especially if we put our information and opinions out there, there's gonna be a lot of people that may not agree with us.
Address.
Exactly. We hear about doxing all the time.
Right. Yeah, especially recently, right, with the Supreme Court justices. I mean,
yes.
So as to where you live, I mean, that really should be just personal information that should not be shared. And so this particular service will help you, gain that degree of privacy.
All right. That's awesome. I mean, I know this was just a catch up. We wanted to talk about some of the ways right now families could get through this difficult time. I mean, inflation sucks. Gas. I drive a diesel truck, and we're getting ready to go on a camping trip to Utah. It's about a 10-hour drive for us, and I've got anxiety thinking about what that's going to cost me in fuel costs. But I don't want to beat up a dead horse, but I've been there. I know Kristen was there too. We talked about this, I don't know, maybe about 15 episodes ago, where we talked about our getting through tough times, and we brought up the example of financial hardship. I remember not being able to go to bed at night, laying up with anxiety,
Mhm.
trying to figure out how I was going to pay this bill or that bill. And it wasn't until I learned about consolidating debt. I had credit cards that were just different payment, and all these payments added up. And finally, a partner of mine said, you should go to a debt consolidation where you put all your credit cards into a lower payment. And it saved me a few hundred. It gave me breathing room is what it was. And I was able to finally go to sleep at night with no anxiety. So, I mean, I know there are families listening right now that are going through that. And I got to tell you, having the peace of mind of being with a financial institution like yours that have programs like this, that make these programs available just for police officers, we'd be foolish not to take advantage of that. So, I invite our listeners to go log on to the Police Credit Union of California's website. The only obligation is to start your savings or checking account, and the minimum deposit is $25. You're not paying any of that in fees to the bank. And my experience so far has been tremendous. I've had people reach out to me on my social media page to tell me that they didn't think they qualified for a mortgage. They didn't think that they would be able to buy a house, but they were able to fulfill their dream simply by visiting your site.
No, that's a great story. And just to tag on to that, I would certainly encourage many of your listeners that if they have multiple credit cards with balances outstanding and they're paying, monthly payments, I would certainly encourage them to come talk to us so that we can either figure out, number one, we could either transfer them over to our credit card that carries right now a much lower interest rate than any of those other banks that are issuing their cards, because our lowest rate right now is 9.25.
Wow.
So even if you transfer that balance over to us, you're still saving money.
Yeah.
Of course, you had cited earlier, the other option obviously is if you have multiple cards with multiple balances out there, consolidate them through a consolidation loan.
Right.
You're still going to be saving money right out of the gate. So
yeah,
really,
you're actually
it's about your hard-earned money,
right?
That you are not putting it to the best use for your own purpose.
Yeah.
And so in this case, hey, as I've said before, even if we could save you $1, that's $1 more that you have in your wallet,
Right.
and that's your money.
And you're chipping away at your debt instead of paying the interest on these credit cards.
Exactly. Because with other card issuers, their goal is really not to have you pay off that balance. Their goal is to make you stretch that balance out for as long as they possibly can.
Right.
It's extraordinarily profitable for these companies. That's why they have these high profile celebrities endorsing them on commercials.
Oh, yeah.
That money has to come from somewhere. All right. Well, Eddie, it's always a pleasure to have you on. You always offer. It's like having a big brother tell you how to do life, really, and you offer so much more. And I love the fact that you have a son that's a police officer, and so you're really invested in this world. It's not just that you're in the position that you are at the credit union, but you really are genuinely part of the law enforcement family. So I appreciate you taking the time out to join us.
No, I appreciate your kind words. For, like I said, for us, you certainly have shown, both you and Kristen certainly have shown your passion for what you do for, really protecting our community. For myself and my staff, our passion is how can we serve and help out the law enforcement family as well in our own way through our banking services. And so it is about sharing with all of you really the information that we share, that we have, and sharing with you that, hey, how can we help you? And
it certainly has. Yeah, it certainly has been a great relationship. We appreciate having such a legitimate sponsor like you on our show. And so I want our listeners, I want all cops out there actually to have the same benefit and relationship with you. So they should follow you guys on social media, Instagram and Facebook. And you guys often offer pretty good tips out there. So just, if you're not ready to make that leap to becoming a member or opening a loan, at least follow them on social media and
start checking out their stuff.
Exactly.
No, but certainly, your words, your testimonial of us, right? That certainly speaks very loud, and I appreciate that. But I think, for those that are not members at this point, that are loyal listeners to your podcast, give us a call, right? And give us a call and really just have that conversation. And I think that they'll be very pleasantly surprised as to what we can do for them.
I think so. I agree. All right, you heard it from the CEO himself, Eddie Young. Give them a call, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. All right. Well, Eddie, thanks again for your time. I know you have a tremendously busy schedule, so it's awesome just to have you more than a few minutes, but let alone an entire episode. So thank you for clearing your schedule for us.
No, thank you. And as always, it's not just a pleasure for me being here with you, but it's really an honor to be able to speak to you as well as to the law enforcement community, because really our like I said, our mission is here to help people within that law enforcement family. So thank you again.
Thank you. That really means a lot to us. And for our listeners, you mean a lot to us as well. Thank you for joining us, inviting us into your homes, your offices, and on your commutes. We know you can listen to just about anyone, but it's an honor to have you guys as our audience. Thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends about us, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. And we'll catch you next time on the 911 Strong podcast. Bye-bye.